And it's working well. Please do invite somebody else. And it's working well. Perfect. We're good to go. Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening to all the ladies the that have joined tonight. We're 21, so I think that we're good to start. If you please want to share the link with somebody else, maybe somebody needs it, or somebody that you know who has a twin or a teen, and get them to join with their children. For some people who are new to the platform, I mean, we've got some people who are new to the platform and they may be asking, what is Pass the Baton? So Pass the Baton is an online platform where women come together to discuss, to share ideas, to empower ourselves, to enlighten ourselves, and to pray on various issues that affect us as everyday women. So there are lots of things that, affect us as women. There are a lot of things that we can share together, that we can talk about. It could be values of life. It could be, raising up a child. It could be menopause, whatever, mental health, the things that are integral to a woman. That's what we talk about here. And we're very open, we're vulnerable. The things that we've gone through, we share so that others don't have to go through the same thing. And it's all the idea of, complementing each other, collaborating together, making sure that we are sisters keeper. And really that is who we are on Pass the Baton. And I felt that before I introduce, or I will get them to introduce themselves, I just wanted to share on these two things that I found. And I always feel that it's not a coincidence when you see something that is integral to what you're about to talk about. And it's funny, I saw one yesterday, and I actually saw one just few minutes, possibly even a minute before I logged on, and I'm going to read it. And it kind of zeroes on what we're talking about today. And two things. I'm going to read the first one. I saw it on Facebook. The mom is Mom T. If she's watching it, she would know herself. It says that Gen Z, so Generation Z, came home from uni for the weekend. And a lot of us, if you have uni children, you would understand this. She goes, I did Abiamo, and that is in Yoruba. Abiamo means I became a mother. I became a mother. I bought food that she can take back. And then I remember that we didn't have any pen and paper in the house. So I offered to help her to get some. She looked at me with a mixture of amusement and faint disdain, as in pen and paper. I said, yes, you need pen and paper to take notes. Little Miss replied, Mom, you're so cute. And tells me that, Mom, I'm not complimenting you because I do not need pen and paper, Mom. I've got my iPad to take my notes. And Mom says, but it's better for you to take pen and paper so that you can still write it down. She goes, Mom, the same pen and paper that we used to write down, the same energy, I would also use the same to put my notes. And guess what, Mom? Even with my iPad, I can record seminars. I can go back and study. I can use Post-it notes. I can use color coding. Then Mom says, at this moment, I'm staring at her in confusion. She then pats me on the head. Mom, it's okay. Don't worry. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And then Mom says, yes, indeed, it's not my fault. I've always used to be exercise books and pens, and they have never shamed me. But it's okay. That's who you are. And then she comes back into the room. She tells her mom a couple of times later, Mom, you know what? I'll just get a couple of folders because they look nice. And I'll get some pen and paper. Okay, Mommy, is that okay? And then Mom says, yeah, that's okay. So that's like what we're talking about, isn't it? Bridging the gap. Because here you see Mom, who is into pen and paper. Those were her days. I mean, that's what I used as well. Those are my days. But I also know that I think I'm kind of in between the pen and paper life and the iPad life. But here is the iPad life, and we see a lot of children using, and we see a lot of schools as well actually doing these things, using the iPads to give them homeworks. And I'm saying to myself that, look, your handwriting is going to be bad. I tell my children, you're going to have bad handwriting. You need good handwriting. And then they say something like, oh, Mom, but even if you cannot spell very well, there's always this to spell these things out for you. But there is a balance, isn't it? And I feel that there is a balance. So that's the first one that I saw. The second one that I saw, and this is from Fina's page. It says, dear parents, it's better for you to sit down, listen and learn to understand what many of our next generation are going through as a result of their own type of childhood. it's fine for us to criticize or to dismiss them and comparing our own tough childhood life to them. But, watch this video. She did put a video there and she was like, watch this video to the end. And what she was trying to say is that as the older generation, a lot of empathy is needed because we feel that, that they have it easy. We feel that they have it very, very soft. And we feel that they need to toughen up and be more resilient because we have all that resilient spirits, that grew up with us. And so here, this evening or morning to anywhere where people are, I've got a very beautiful young girl. She's actually part of Pass the Baton. She comes here regularly. And if you listen to her voice, you probably know that, yes, she doesn't just come. She actually listens and she talks, she shares ideas, she shares her own opinion. She's a very, very confident young lady. And as part of, the International Month for Girls, I thought this is a good topic, for us to come together as girls. Actually, I'm a girl as well.
Yeah.
And we're all girls. So come together as girls, and give this generation, give them a voice and help them also to listen to what they have to say, because I feel that it's so important. And for some of us, we may think, it's not really for me. I tell you the truth, when you have teenagers, anyone here who has a teenager, you can use your reaction button to give me one. Don't make it be like I'm the only one in that boat. If you have a teenager, I think you will probably understand some of the things that I'm talking about, because with them, it's different. And it doesn't mean that they are bad, because I always say to people that don't let people stereotype young people or tell you that, before they get to this age, you have to panic. You have to panic because you're going to have a teenager. It's a whole lot of rubbish. You just have to learn them. You have to understand them. And when you do, they are the easiest to get along with, just like we were the easiest to get along with as well during our own years. It just takes a lot of understanding them. And when we do, life becomes easier, life becomes better. There's a lot of respect in the relationship. I feel that a lot of us, we still want to treat them like that young person that they used to be, whereas forgetting that they have evolved over the years. So tonight, please, with your reaction button, I want us to welcome Thelma. Give her a sounding ovation, give her a thumbs up, whatever you need to give her, make her feel welcome. Thelma, you are important. We appreciate you. First, I'm going to ask you, how old are you before we start? And then you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your platform. I'm 19 years old. Yeah. So I'm 19. I'm a university student studying real estate, and I'm currently actually taking a gap year. And that's what I do at the moment. And during my gap year, I'm working at a company doing acquisitions. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well done. And thank you for coming. We honor you and we celebrate you as well for coming, for being a voice to so many, many, many other teenagers and young adults as well, for helping us to kind of get into your world. So I'm just going to leave you now to just, talk. If you have questions for Thelma, I have a preteen who is giving me a sneak peek into what to expect. Yes, I love that. And somebody says yes to Diamond Mom and Daughter D. Yes, Diamond. I remember the Aroma name from way back. So thank you so much for having us. By the way, they are mom and daughter team. So they are the lattes from Ghanaian origin, living in the UK. I've known my sister Vida for a very while now, but we've kept in touch. She is fantastic. She's an author. So she's into social care. She's also into nursing. She's got a lot of wild background. She's also a businesswoman. She is a leader in the marketplace. So I celebrate you. And I'll just leave you, Thelma, to just go on and do your thing for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I will just share my screen. Okay, so hello everyone. I hope you're doing well. It's so lovely to be on on Bimi's platform tonight. And the topic that we're going to be discussing is bridging the generational gap. So when my mum approached me with this proposal about coming on to speak, I thought the best thing that I'd like to do is present some research that I did a couple of years ago to do with parents and children. And then from there, I'd like to open the floor for discussion to talk about the research and how we can work on bridging the generational gap between children and parents.
Continue.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go on, we can.
Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. So I'm going to talk about why the study was conducted. So a few years ago, I was walking home from school with a good friend of mine, and my mum called me, which is something that she normally does. So I picked up the call, spoke to mum for a few minutes, and then I ended the call. And after I ended the call, my mother, my friends turned to me and said, "Oh, I wish I could speak to my mum like that. It's like we don't really have a relationship, the relationship that you have between you and your mother." And at that age, it really baffled me as to why I just couldn't understand why my friend didn't have the same relationship as her mum. So when I got home, I told my mum about what happened, and then she just sort of putting this idea in me, or maybe I should conduct research and be curious to find out more about parents and their relationship with their children. So that's why I conducted a study, a questionnaire asking parents a lot of questions about their children and their parenting style, and a questionnaire for children asking about their relationship with their parents and their communication. So the research was quite long, hence why I've condensed it down. But I'm going to share with you some of the results from the research. So a question that we pose to both parents and children is what they don't like about each other, which is quite a strong way to start a questionnaire. So what parents said about their children is that the most common responses were disobedience, time spent on technology, which I think most of us children are guilty of, and honesty. And then when the same question was posed to children, things that they came up, the most common responses were being controlling, bad communication, being annoying, and being unsupportive. And these questions were actually written response questions. So people were able to write a lot about what they didn't like about their parent/child. And there were two responses that really stood out to me. And these are verbatim what the parent and child said, where one parent said, "They don't understand my culture," and a child said, "They don't understand the society I'm growing up in." Therefore, this really clearly indicates that the feeling is mutual. I think both parties understand and recognize that there is a generational gap between parents and children, but trying to sort of pinpoint why there is can be quite difficult. So we move on to another section of the results. So we asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, how good is the communication between you and your child/children? So from parents, the most common rating that they gave their communication was 9 out of 10. And then when we posed the same question to children about how good their communication was with their parents, the most common response rating was 7 out of 10. So as we move along in the research, another question that we posed to parents was, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, how good is the relationship with your children? The most common response that we got from parents was their rating 10 out of 10 for their relationship with their children. So as you can see, the parents are quite confident about how their relationship was with their children. And surprisingly, children are also quite confident, and the most common response was 9 out of 10 with their relationship with their parents. So then we went on to ask, do you consider your parents to be great role models? I.e., do they practice what they preach? and the results were varying. So 46.8% said sometimes, 46.8% also said yes, and then the remainder said no. So there's some children out there who are very sure that their parents aren't great role models. And when we asked the same question to parents, whether they consider themselves to be a good role model, i.e. practicing what they preach, the majority, so that's 65.2%, said yes. And then finally, we come on to talking about parenting style. So when parents were asked who or what influences their parenting style, the majority answered their own parents, or their own mother and father, is where they learnt their parenting style, and the word of God. And then to tie into that question, we also asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how satisfied are you with your parenting style? And the most common rating that parents gave was 9 out of 10. So as you can see, a lot of parents are quite confident in their having a good relationship with their children, and the parenting style is pretty good. And then the final question that we asked children is, if you were a parent, what would you do differently? And the most common responses that we got were better communication, being more supportive, and giving their children more freedom. Yeah, so I just wanted to open up the floor. I don't know whether there'll be mics off or people can write in the comments, but if people could share maybe what they thought about the research and whether they found anything to be surprising, or if they could relate to anything that was that came up in the research, be more than welcome.
Selma, maybe you can stop sharing your screen. So if you want to say anything, please do put your hands up. There's a lot of things that have been shared in those slides. Has anything resonated with you? What do you agree with? And okay, I've got Loretta. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Thank you. Please do put your hands up.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Thelma, for the fantastic research that you have done. I'm not going to poke your research, but I'm very excited to see a young person be curious enough to take action. And what really touched me is, because I work with children a lot, I thought I would amplify your voice to say about children feeling controlled by their parents. You know, I was just discussing that recently while giving a session on parenting. And I found that a lot of times we parents, especially from our own generation, it's shocking that we're now a generation, Bumi. But that's life, isn't it? But it's interesting that we want the best for our children, but we find it difficult to adopt their perspective. And as a result, there's a mismatch where we're trying to do these very best things for them, but we don't carry them along, we don't empathize with them, and they feel so hurt, and they carry this pain sometimes all the time, and it can be the reason for a lot of problems down the line. And things can really go bad where children are fighting the control and not realizing that that's actually intended to be a good thing. So I think your research has picked up on that, which is really good, which shows the validity of your research, aligning with other research as well. And I think it calls us, especially as African parents in diaspora, specifically as a group, to really start to expand our parenting and how we get, there you said they get that from their parents and from God, the word of God. But it's also touching us to say there's still other ways we can get some of these ideas, maybe to align with the young people of this generation as well. So thank you so much for the research. I'm pretty excited to see how it all goes. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Loretta. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else, please? What would you like to add to what Thelma said? Or maybe you have a question as well that you feel that, you want to. I mean, on what Loretta said, I've seen some young people where I mean, I even read some things online and you see them voice out, and they're not shy to voice out. You know, they normally would speak their mind. And I know that recently there was one that I read where I think it was about sacrifice. We're talking about it, myself and my friend, and she's actually online. And she was talking about, you know, how sometimes, you know, parents can say, "Oh, I sacrificed this for you, I did this for you, I did that." She said, in as much as she loved it, but they make the sacrifice sound like they are guilty, you know, for not, they make the children feel guilty for the parents not wanting to live their lives. So they see themselves as the cause, you know, for that guilt, because every now and then if they do something wrong, it's like, you are the reason, I didn't do this because of you, I didn't. And she felt that, hold on, mom, you could have gone to live your life, you didn't have to, you know, do it because of me. And I was reading the comments, and a lot of people were saying that, but obviously as a parent, she was saying that if she became a parent, but people were saying that it's because she's not a parent yet, that if she became a parent, she would do the same sacrifice for her children. And but I felt that where she was coming from, it wasn't that she was saying she was not going to do it, but it's more like when you make them feel, you know, it's the guilt trip that comes from, you know, those kind of things. So I just want us to be very interactive and to share ideas, especially if you've worked with young people. What can you say about them? What do you think? You know, we're all here to learn. If you've also got young people, you know, that have gone ahead, what are the things that we can all, I feel that if we all talk, we should all hear one voice, you know, coming out, if we really, really desire to share with each other. And I feel that also we can help the next, you know, generation coming up. I feel there should be a balance. That's my own, you know, personal. I feel that you can't just leave them, obviously, to do what they want to do, but there should be a balance where, you know, let's talk, let's discuss. What do you bring to the table? Then I share mine, and we can kind of come, you know, in between and talk. But if we also have young people here, please, I would like us to share. Thank you, Areta. I've seen you. I've asked you to unmute.
Yes. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Bumi, for having me to ask questions. It's been always a privilege for me to be along with my diamond coach, Mama Vida and Thelma. I just want to ask Thelma a question. This research that she's really conducting is fantastic. Although she got to speak with her friend, I mean, she was on the phone, as she explained at the beginning, while she was talking to her mom, and her friend was quite surprised at the communication that she's having with her mom. I want to see, how did she go about to even think about doing this research? How many people did she speak to, for example, and how did she approach them to be open to really adhere to support in doing this research? Was it easy to approach them? What was the difficulties in her doing it, both with the parent and also with the youth?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for your question, Henrietta. So when it came to conducting the research, I think one thing that really helped was the fact that the questionnaire was completely anonymous. And so that meant any responses that were given by parents or children, you wouldn't know who it is, which really helps people to be open and write fully what they thought about their parents, or the gaps between parents and children. And I think I was just very lucky in the way that I have a lot of friends and family friends who were very open to this idea of taking part in the research, because I think there is a general understanding that there is some difficulty, especially when it comes to teenagers and their parents, finding common ground. And sometimes it can be quite difficult for parents and children to really come together and understand each other, especially in the African diaspora, because of the cultural differences. So a lot of my friends, or the teenagers that took part in the research, were very happy and open to want to contribute to this research, in the hopes that the findings would help people to understand more about the relationships between the two, and open a conversation like we're having now about what could be done to start bridging the generational gap.
Does that help, Loretta?
Sure.
About 10 minutes. Does that help? Or does anyone else have anything else to contribute? Okay, I've got 2 hands up. So let me just ask you to unmute. Loretta first. Then
Yes, that's how. Thank you very much. Thank you. And great work. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Loretta, please. Thank you.
Thank you. This particular topic is very close to my heart, so I apologize in advance if you keep hearing my voice. I think that what's really touching to me also is prior to coming to diaspora, I think what's really shocking for us as a generation, just talking to the young people in the group, is that I feel like in our own time, we shared similar feelings like the youths feel now, but we didn't have the freedom to express them. So we grew up in a society, and that was what was handed down, where we were hushed, we had to do what we were told. And some of us, even I experienced some depression. If you think about what they're calling depression now, that's what it must have been at the time. Like, these people haven't got a clue. They don't feel my pain. I hate my parents. You know, we all had that moment, but we were in a society where you dare not say it. Like, how dare you say you hate your parents? Like, they're doing the best for you. And then we come to this world where, on top of the fact that we haven't got the community around us to help, we come to a world where these children are so vocal, and then they go to school where they teach them to be vocal, and then somehow we can't even cane them. Like, they had that in Africa, where they would cane us, and then we'll be in line, we'll fall in line. And somehow we're supposed to do all this talking to them. And you know that one thing the research also shows is that we tend to parent the way we've been parented. So we don't have the role models of people sitting down all the time, talking to us and seeing reason with us. And here is this child in front of you that you're suddenly supposed to be a pastor to. Like, seriously, how will that even happen? So this is one of the things I find to be one of the main reasons why we struggle a lot, because we don't even know how to manage our own emotions, how much more understand that our children depend on us to manage their emotions. Because we grew up in a world where our emotions were swallowed, like we just swallowed the emotions. And even if we had to cry, it would be to friends like us in school. Like Bumi will know, we went to the same secondary school, and we would rant around in school, and some would throw tantrums. But here, the whole setup is different. These children will go to school with a different race who have different realities as well from them. So I do feel sorry for them sometimes. You know, when you think about it, it's a very difficult situation to be in. But thanks to you and your fantastic research, we are all talking. So yeah, nice.
Thank you, Loretta. So I'm going to leave it back to you, Thelma.
Okay. So thank you everyone for your contributions. I think all the points that were raised were very, very important. And it's glad to know that there's lots of parents also realizing that there's a generational gap and that previous generations have influenced the parenting style. So I just want to share my screen again. So I just quickly want to talk about what resulted from the research. So after looking at all of the research and looking at what came from it, I think there are 4 main categories that me and my mum looked at that were able to, that sort of contributed to the generational gap. And the 4 categories that we saw were communication, adaptation, culture, and religion. If we're going to talk about all of them today, I think we'd have to write a book or do a whole day event. So the most important one that we wanted to talk about was culture. And the most important one we wanted to talk about was culture. So I just wanted to talk through the following points. And if at any point there's something that resonates with you or you want to add something to what I've said, please feel free to comment or speak. But
Selma, just a quick one. Your video is off. It'd be good to see your face, your lovely face.
Oh yes, can you see us now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to talk through these points to do with culture because I think they're very important and quite integral to bridging the generational gap. So typically in our culture, I think there is a lot of high expectations for children in terms of their achievements. So which isn't inherently a bad thing, but I think it can be quite high at times, wanting your child to be that, 11 A-star student, go to a Russell Group university and have that typical pathway of success that is expected from our parents. It's the getting amazing grades, going to amazing university, and then having amazing career at the end of it. And I think that sometimes the pressure that comes from parents having such high expectations is why children can sometimes step a bit back when it comes to wanting to have a relationship with their parents, because it's not about talking about the fact that maybe I'm struggling mentally. It's like, why did you get that certain grade, or why aren't you meeting those expectations? And I also think that sort of ties into how in our culture, children are used as trophies to a certain extent, where anytime you meet up in church or you meet in the community, it's like, oh yeah, my son has achieved this and achieved that, and oh, me too, my daughter has achieved that. And of course, it's important to recognize and celebrate our children's achievements. As a parent, you should be allowed to feel proud of what they achieve, but it shouldn't tie into being conditional, because when you only present your children as trophies and not actually as human beings to other people, to the children, it's sending a message of conditional love, that you only love me if I can achieve those grades, or if I can go to that university or meet that very high expectation that you're setting for that child.
Become a doctor or a solicitor.
Doctor or a lawyer. So I think that it's important to be conscious of, when we're celebrating our children's achievements, that it's not doing that to in a way praise yourself, but in a way that I'm proud of my child of achieving this, and even if they achieve their stars and decided not to go to university, I'm proud regardless. And I think that's something that needs to be discussed a little bit more. So moving on, in terms of culture, I think that we as an African diaspora really do have a problem when it comes to covering up, and there's very much a sentiment of, oh, don't wash your dirty linen in public. So if you're struggling, or if life isn't all rainbows and fairies, that we don't feel open or we don't feel safe enough to go and talk to them, to another person, because you're worried that someone will talk behind your back or look down upon you. So it's very much a culture of cover-ups. And because everyone seems so perfect from the outside, and seem so amazing on the outside, we sort of feel that pressure to also make ourselves look very good in front of other people. So now we're just surrounded by basically a whole community of facades, and there's no truth and there's no ability to open up. And I think that also ties into parents now struggling because they don't get to as openly talk about maybe the parent struggles that they're having with their children, in the fear of they're going to talk badly behind me or they're going to look down upon me, which I think that as a community is something that we need to work on, in being more open and honest. Because if the majority of people are open and honest about the struggles and genuinely share their parenting journeys, I think it can make it a lot easier to have those conversations about how to better bridge the gap between themselves and their children, when we're more open about how other people parent. So then we come on to the subject of gender roles. The treatment of boys and girls can be very different between in our households. For example, when a girl when a girl maybe achieves something, maybe it's not as taken seriously or highly regarded as when a boy achieves something, because in our minds we sort of tie other things to define success for girls. So being able to cook, being able to clean, be able to do all these things for a future husband that a girl may or may not have, rather than considering maybe what the girl actually wants to do and wants to achieve. That there's not everything ties into like marriage, and that shouldn't be the ultimate goal for girls. And we seem to try and drive girls in that direction. For example, I know of someone where they've achieved such amazing things, like they have an amazing job and career, and if you saw their LinkedIn profile, you'd be super impressed. But she talks to me and confides in me that her parents are really pressing for her to get married, and they never seem to really recognize her other achievements that she has outside of relationships. So I think it's important that we're conscious of how we treat our girls and boys, and even the way that we speak to our girls. We shouldn't say, oh, you should go and cook, because how are you going to cook for your husband when you're older? And we shouldn't say to boys, for example, oh, boys don't cry, and boys don't cry, and other sort of cliches and platitudes. We should be conscious on how we talk to our children, because that influences how they see us. And when they see that your love is in a way conditional, it makes them want to step back, and also brings about resentment, which is something that we should be careful about. Also, I think another thing that is very key and central when it comes to culture is the culture clash that we ultimately have. If your parents have been born abroad and they're coming to the UK, the culture that they've grown up in, as someone previously mentioned, is very different to the one that we're experiencing now. The way that my mum was taught, like her values and morals, is different to the things that I get to see through social media, through my friends, through school. And I think that sometimes we don't consciously try to integrate into society. I think sometimes we try and stay in our little cluster of what we know, so a little community of our church friends or people that we know that have also come abroad, and we stick to that sort of mold of parenting. But I think that as parents, you shouldn't be afraid to sort of even open up dialogues with your children about differences in culture, and trying to understand more and integrate better into understanding the society that your children are growing up in. Because it's not just like a cultural thing, it's also a time thing as well, where we're born into an age of social media, and we're seeing a lot of things and hearing a lot of things maybe much quicker than compared to our parents. And I also think that on the children's side, that I definitely think that sometimes as children, when you're young, you don't quite fully understand and acknowledge the struggles that your parents go through, because a lot of the time when you're coming into a new culture, the main thing your parents are going to be thinking about is how I'm going to turn the heating on, or how am I going to put food on the table. Like, it's very much a survival mode mentality. And as children, when maybe you don't get parents who are as emotionally available, it can sometimes be quite confusing to a child, that maybe my friends at school, they have quite emotionally available parents, but I don't. But as I've gotten older, and a lot of my friends who've also grown up with me can say this for a fact, that I think that sometimes as children, we should be a lot more gracious to our parents, in terms of the fact that they're also being parents for the first time, they're going through life for the first time. And we should acknowledge that sometimes it was maybe a bit of a struggle for them when we were younger, to try and balance physically providing for their children and emotionally providing for us. So it's really important to work together as parents and children to make an intentional effort to not only parents supporting their children, but also children supporting their parents to grow and adapt into changing their parenting style as the children grow older. So linking into adaptation in society, I think that we have a very big shame culture, which impacts the way that people decide to parent. There have been instances where I've heard stories of mothers being afraid to ask for help from like going to food banks or asking for help in different situations because of that shame that, oh, if I can't do something for my child, then you know, I'm not a good parent, or I don't want to be seen as like, you know, seen as like an outcast almost in a way, in a sense. And I think that it's important to recognize that children see your actions and they see the way that you approach your parenting, and they ultimately would like replicate in like according to psychology. And I think that it's being afraid to ask for help can sometimes hinder the development and the growth that you could potentially have in the relationship with your children. So honestly, I think all these things sort of link into a culture and society where it starts with a few people changing the way that they approach their parenting in order to encourage others to be brave enough to open up about the struggles that they have in trying to bridge the gap between their children. And, you know, you have no idea, maybe there's someone out there who's been able to work on developing that relationship, who can say, oh, you know what, I used to have this problem with my child, that they weren't being very open or they're keeping secrets from me, but through doing A, B, C, D, now we have a much better relationship. We're much more open and honest with each other, and we have much better communication. And maybe that just comes from openly sharing some of the issues that you may have. But, you know, obviously, and as anything, if you want to have a ripple effect, it starts with one ripple in the water, that one domino, before we can have that effect. And last but not least, being kind to yourself. There are no perfect parents. You're all trying your best. But I do think that it's key to not give up so easily. You know, if you have even young adult children, it's never too late to repair or to develop and to improve the relationship you have with your children. It starts with one step. Maybe it's having that one conversation of, you know, maybe when you were younger, I wasn't that emotionally available, and I've seen that and I've recognized that. How can I support you now as a teenager or as a young adult? How can I go about improving our relationship, being intentional? And your child would seriously, you know, they won't take that for granted. They will seriously be really happy to hear that we're opening up a conversation and that you're being more open-minded to wanting to adapt and improve relationships, because that's all that children are really asking for. It's that intention and that willingness to take a step to improve, rather than sticking to a closed, fixed mindset. Yes, that is what I wanted to say. So never give up, clap for yourself, enjoy the journey of parenting, and hopefully we can all work together as a community to better work on our bridging the gap between parents and children. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I've got a hand up already. Thank you. I thought that was fantastic. Anybody else? Do you think that was good? I felt that was really good. And people are saying, yeah, 100% agree. And then there's a clap of hands. Someone said it's outstanding. I've got a hand up, Daniel Mensa. I'm just gonna ask you to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hello.
Do you have a contribution? Okay, I'm just gonna move on. Some of the things that you shared, I just want to touch on it. A few things that you shared, and I'm just gonna ask people. So people are saying, yeah, perfectly said, all good. Woo, with my loudest Nigerian voice. Wahoo. Yeah, so yes, everybody's saying amazing. So well done, Thelma. You're like our daughter tonight, all right? You're talking on behalf of all the young people that we know. So you are the perfect person tonight. So some of the things that you spoke about was achievement expectations. Maybe we should start with that. If anyone wants to contribute, achievement expectations. I mean, I'm just gonna start with this. So growing up, I was a very A student growing up, and I have a lot of secondary school. I was the head girl, those kind of. So I loved studying, growing up. But one thing that I found out is, and I say to everyone, it's actually not a child's fault. Sometimes, I mean, we have the children who they don't want to study, they just don't want to study. And I feel that, even with those, you can talk to them. You have to just keep talking, praying for them. But then you have these other sets, and let's be genuine, who they really want to know. They really, really want to know. And I have seen them. They really want to know. They study, but they don't know it. They don't understand it. And yet, a lot of people want high expectations from them. And I always say to people that, have you ever, sat down to be in their shoes? Do you know what it is for them to want to, but yet they can't? They can't, not because they don't, but that's because the world makes us to just have this linear way of, this is the way, maths, English, that's the way we measure people. That's the way we measure people. And I feel that it's not right that I judge you based on my own strength. Does that make sense? So I'm judging you based on my strengths. So for example, this same set of people, maybe they're very good at DIY and I'm rubbish at DIY, So if they were to judge me as well, then I'm not brilliant. And we need to start talking about these things. Do you understand? We need to start talking about it. I've seen children who ideally, they really want to know. And you see the pain in their eyes. And can I just say to parents who are watching tonight that if you have a child like that, please support them. There is a gift and a talent in every child. Just look for it. Don't measure them the way the world measures. The world has gone above just, maths, English, and that is it. The world, I've seen brilliant people and they're not good at interviews. And I read this on Facebook yesterday, and it's so true. What use is a brilliant person who does not have a relationship skills? You cannot relate to people. You're not relational. The world does not need brilliant people who are not relational. It's not just going to school, but the school passing through you. What other skills can that child do? And can we just start from there? And stop saying, oh, yes, in my days, I got an A. If you have these children of now, they will tell you to go and bring your results. But actually, that can even be a lie. But because we want to push them, so we say all of these things that we feel that we're using to push them, but we're actually demeaning them. We're actually demeaning them. Children are diverse. It's a shame that the world only chooses mainly academics as the yardstick for measuring their achievements. And I even say this as well. I've seen people who were not so brilliant, and I'm sure a lot of us knew these people. They were not brilliant during school, but it got to a point in their life where maturity then kicked in. And it's like, wow, this person that you thought was not brilliant before, wow, they're actually very good. But because we are not waiting for their own timing, we're waiting for our own timing to judge them. And I think Tolu put her hands up. I don't know where you are, Tolu, but if you put your hands up again.
Hey, just to quickly add to that, I said I was not going to talk, but just to really, okay, so we have to also appreciate the fact that we have something called neurodiversity. So just because, and that includes autism, dyslexic, children could be dyslexic. We have to appreciate that in our community. And, most of those, these great men, Steve Jobs and all the, the Virgin and all that, they have become great men having all those conditions, but we African parents need to also appreciate that sometimes our children could be suffering from that. And I have known parents that will say, I'm praying about it, I'll never accept it that my child is having. Meanwhile, the child is crying for help. And it's another way of abusing your child, not giving the opportunity to your child to be to have access to health care that would even help. Speech therapies and all the support that is there. So though we are praying, I know today, Thomas, we are not going to talk about the other three, which is communication, adaptation, and religion, but that religion also ties in whilst we are all on here, that we have the faith, but please let's allow the specialists to help us with children that are having those problems, neurodiversity. They are not disabled, but they are neurodiverse.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I totally agree with that. I mean, my second had, it took a while for me to, when you know your child and you see some things and you're like, they do things certain way. And you've rightly said it, they do things certain way. And they are very intelligent people. They're highly intelligent. They do things certain, the things that they do, my brain is not wired to do it. And I noticed it and I started to read more and And when I read more, I actually saw that, he had dyspraxia. And for a while, I was like, okay, this is a new one. I know dyslexic, but I didn't know what a dyspraxia is. And I started to read it. And I went to the school, I challenged them and I said, no, I need you. We need to sit down together. What is the plan for this? I need to know what you're doing. You cannot treat him like every other person. He has this need. We need to address it. And you know what? After addressing it for, I think it was about 8 or 9, then they did something borderline of dyspraxia. He showed that he had it. And I was like, okay, yes, this is what I'm saying. And after a while, they took him off SEN. But this is what you've just said, that when you identify the need in that child, every child is unique. And we as parents, we are there as custodians to be able to help them. And it's high time that the African people start to talk about this and stop praying things away. Because praying without action is silliness. Even the Bible said it is dead. It is a waste of time. We live in a society where things are so diverse. And if you're not helping that child, actually, it's not just right. I'm just going to call on Tolu quickly before we move on to the next one. Yes, please, Tolu.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Thelma, as well, and her mom. What I raised my hand up initially for Bumi and Thelma's mom actually spoke about it. It's about having children or a child who is quite intelligent when it comes to academics and all of that. But I worry about communication with people, and you just said something about your second child. I'm going to kind of read up about it because my child is 16. But I worry that there's this communication system with communication. Like, she can do everything academically, she's sound, but when it comes to communicating with people, going out, meeting, she doesn't do any of those things. And I worry because in the world where we are now, it's not people who are going ahead in things in life, in their careers. It's not because they're intelligent, it's because of the way they communicate. And I try as much as possible as a mom. It's really worrying for me. I pray about it. I try to do things that I can do, because I know it's not just this academics. Academics can't take you anywhere. She cannot walk up to someone and ask a question as easy as going up to the train ticketing officer to say, how do I get from here to here? She can't do it. She gets really I don't know the word. Like, she gets really nervous when she's called out to answer a question in class. Last GCSE when she did this, she cried all through the exams, and I was even worried as a parent that, okay, it's fine, you do your best. And when her result came out, they were all A stars. So I worried, why was she worried? It's like, oh, I don't want to disappoint you. So I started getting worried that it's not about me here, because I know my child's ability, I know what she can do academically. But so I want to ask Thelma, is it, because sometimes it's the culture. Even when I take her out to where her peers are, age mates are, she wouldn't communicate. She's gone through secondary school. We don't have a friend. Like, we can say, oh, my daughter is going to go out with her friend, or and I really worry. Have I been too strict about, oh, I don't want you to be with this kind of person or that kind of person, so now she's just keeping away from everybody, kind of thing? I don't know. So
Yeah,
I've never been a mother before, so this is worrying for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it could be a mixture of different things. I myself, growing up, I was a very, very shy kid, to the point where sometimes I couldn't even ask to go to the toilet because I'd be so scared, I just freeze. And now seeing that change and growth in myself that I'm doing, speaking like this, is a very big thing for me. So I think potentially maybe it could be like social anxiety, where that person maybe they know that they want to ask for help or they want to do something, but it's like psychologically, like they just freeze and stop. And there's lots of different ways that you could get help and different platforms that you could get, people you can get in contact with who help with like things like social anxiety. And also one thing that I did personally anyway, that really helped me in speaking and my confidence was joining a Toastmasters speaking club. And initially when I joined, I was completely terrified. But when you have a small community like that, a small group of people that you learn how to speak. So you speak on different topics, you do impromptu speaking. That's something that really helped me to be able to better communicate and in a safe space. So maybe those are two potential avenues, but I would also say maybe, I don't know if you've had a conversation with your daughter, but maybe try to have a conversation to tackle maybe the root of why they feel a bit nervous. And sometimes it takes time. Maybe that daughter will eventually one day just bring up something that might spark something in your mind that, oh, maybe an incident happened where that sort of stopped them from wanting to be more open in like speaking to people. But I think with some of those things, it maybe is a time factor. I don't know how you feel about it, but
I also think mentorship could also help, because I remember someone was mentoring some younger girls and they've really come up so well. So having a little big sister, which is not like home environment anymore, but somebody outside, go for coffee with them. And if you're in this country too, you could also speak to your GP as well. They can also maybe refer you to somebody who can help with the anxiety problem. Another thing is to go, one of my lecturers said, going for that kind of self-confidence lessons, where you learn self-defense and things like that, also really, really, because they don't just teach you self-defense, but they teach you how to be confident, how to really integrate with society and be confident. So yeah, you can still speak to Reverend Blumi or any of us later. Someone can also get help. Someone can also help.
Someone says, Tolu, where do you live? If you're in the UK, contact your school nurse through the school or GP for additional support. She may have additional emotional needs. She may benefit from some one-to-one sessions through specialist services. Yeah, you can help her to listen to TED Talk. I would even, Tolu, I'll call you because I know we live in the same area. You can take her to cadets as well. You know, that would help her to meet people of her age. They interact, they talk. My son is exactly like that, to be honest, my second child. You cannot send him to the corner shop. Even now, it's just a little bit coming out. If you send him to the corner shop, if he goes there and he looks for the orange juice, he would not go to the counter person to say, oh, please, have you moved the orange juice to the next? He would literally leave. He doesn't want to talk to anyone, you know? And, you know, every child is just different. Whereas you have another one where, you know, they want to talk. So that's it. I'm going to allow Pastor Yetunde talk because I know that she deals a lot with young people. Her hands were up before. Ma, if you please put your hands up again, then I can unmute you quickly. I can ask you to unmute. Pastor Yetunde Adiola, I'm trying to look for you. If you just put your hands up. And then I think after her is Henrietta. While I'm waiting for her, I'm going to ask Henrietta to please unmute. Okay, yeah, I can see her now. So let me ask her quickly. She put her hands up before. Yes, please. Okay.
God bless you for the wonderful works that you're doing, my sister, and everyone online. It's always good to learn. I just have little contribution when it comes to parenting. I've seen few. I noticed that sometimes what you do that you think you are wrong, someone else will do the same thing and they will, by the grace of God, they will excel. And that's why sometimes we don't take the glory, we just give God the praise that the Holy Spirit is helping us to parent well. But even with that, there are a few things I think we need to be mindful of, especially with lots of families that are coming in now. The first thing I want to mention is that the social services and the police, they don't need our children. They've had enough. Please, can we parents face our priorities? It's good to look for money. It is good to invest in ourselves. But these children, they are our first important reason, because someone brought us to life. That is why we can achieve what we are achieving. I've seen many people that did not have enough time for those children. And then the money they are putting together, they now use it for what they shouldn't use it for. So the first thing is that we need to invest time into their lives. There is situation that the parents will come in, the children will be the only one going to school looking for school. At the end of the day, they miss out on a lot of things. Please, sister earlier, because I didn't join from the beginning, I'm sorry. I heard when the sister was saying that in this place there is no support, or maybe it depends on where you stay. I will say that if you're living in a place where there is no support, because it takes a community to raise a child, please, you can start something. I started years back because I knew there was nothing in my area, and I could see that a lot of Africans are missing out. There is absolutely many things that other cultures are doing. We cannot keep blaming them because of safeguarding or because of whatever that we face through them when we are not doing our own quarters. There are a lot of things that the NSCCC are saying. They are giving free training so that we understand what they need us to do. Many times when we run NSCCC training, they will say that, do you know what is happening, Yetunde? Your people don't know how to manage children. You don't live. Gone are the days when we were growing up. At the age of 12, 13, you are teaching a child. The truth about it now, any child you don't give your moral before the age of 5, once they get to primary school, they've already learned so much. The schools will be shaping their life. The environment will be shaping their life. Social media will be shaping their life. And because parents are not always around, then before we know it, it becomes we have argument, we have issue. When they become teenager, we think we can control them. We start using our own mentality and method that they used to treat up and brought us up. And then it is too late because their own experience is so different. So for us to be able to excel in bringing that gap between our parents and them, we should start earlier. We should start earlier. Even these white people, we see sometimes the child will be going far miles. The parents will be coming from back. They will not make mistake. We should start earlier. I love the fact that many parents have been saying that we need to give them time to excel because we don't have time for them. That is why we are pushing them to what we know. Be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a teacher, be a this, because that is our limited experience and knowledge. But if we have time, we will realize a child that is good with their hands. We will realize a child that is good with their legs, with everything. Every child has his own potential and gift and talent. But one of the things that I notice, not general, but I notice in some schools around here, they're pushing some of our children towards particular profession. And even though a lot of people will be blaming them, but I will say that you don't have to blame them, because if you yourself, you don't know your child enough, you cannot identify the gift and the talent and shape the life destiny of your child by yourself, then they will do it for you. So pushing every child to sport doesn't mean half of them will be anything through sport, but because they want somebody to represent them in sport, they will do. Putting every child towards dance doesn't mean that all the child, sometimes these things are just passion. But as a parent, we need to be there for them. I just want to mention that we should not let the system design the destiny of our children. And the Lord will help us in Jesus' name. Please, let's make things happen for ourselves. Wherever we are, opportunities are there. Nobody is helping. Start. You know what? Even if it's your language, you will get recognized. Asians have organization and support in all the languages they have. It is only African that we want to be recognized with English. I don't understand our problem. If it's not, because if you don't teach your child your own culture, they will tell you that is your problem. So we need to put that. Many of them, they use mental, oh my God. I have seen many of these children that are brought up from Nigeria. They have been going to private institute. I have a case, 2 cases we are dealing with now. Private, Nigeria just brought that attitude of private, this private, that lock the children up in boarding school. And many of these children are being abused there. Abused sexually, abused mentally, abused in every area. Now they brought them here. Unfortunately, some of them thought they can get away with some things. They start touching other girls anyhow. In this country, anything that stains a child's report is forever. We need to guide our destiny. I have seen a child that was about to go to Oxford University. What they pull out to stop him is just something that he did at the age of 15. Please, let's guide the destiny of our children. Nobody is perfect, but if you are doing 24 hours, your husband is doing 24 hours, everybody is doing all these kind of things. The system is lifting up, rearing the children and bringing them up. It will be too late by the age of 11 and be saying, sit down there, don't go party. Some of us, we allow them to go any kind of things, Halloween party, sleepover. Please, the Lord will help us in Jesus. I'm very sorry for taking your time.
Thank you, ma.
The Lord bless you.
Thank you so much for contributing. Thank you so much. I'm going to call the next person, Henrietta. I just ask you to unmute. Yes, please. Go on.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, this is Henriette here. Thelma, my diamond, I always call her my diamond girl. My diamond Thelma touched on so much valuable points that we all as parents, I don't know if there's any children that joined the really should take that into consideration. And all the other people that also intervene have made a very great point, such as Sister Yetunde, her contribution also was really brilliant. But as she mentioned, it takes a community to raise a child. I think at the same time, I will also add to say that it takes a community to trust the expertise or its own community in order for people to acknowledge that. Because for myself, I work in mental health, and you know how mental health is so stigmatized here everywhere in society, but let alone in our own community as African people residing here in UK. Our children are suffering in silence. Sister Yetunde, before she finished, she mentioned a very key point. I don't know if some people pick it up about our children doing sleepover. The other sister, when she was talking, she said her daughter is she's academically brilliant, but however, there's a communication barrier. I'm not saying that her daughter is doing something, but just from my own experience and from cases that we do come over, a lot of children are going through rape, abuse by uncle, places that they go, even their own relative have been maybe either sexually molested, and they don't know how to really talk to parent about it. Some of the issue around that could be that, oh, if I tell my parent, they won't believe me, or they will tell me to shut up, oh, it's not socially accepted. There's a lot of barriers that keeps children bondage, whereby they become mute. They don't even know how to express themselves. Thelma touched on by high expectation. Yes, we all know that we African, we really, really expect our children to do the best. They become bondage of it. Some children can be academically brilliant, but however, by doing so, they just want to please parents, not themselves. They might continue to be so brilliant to reach a point whereby they finish and they start working and they don't like the job they're doing. They hate themselves because they've never really had the time of doing what could be pleasing them in the long run, in the life, in the future. And they did not really put it to say, yes, mom or dad, please hear me out. I don't want to do that. Can you help me to do something else? So we really, really need to take time and know our children. Try and communication start from home. Communication with the children starts from home. if you are family, mom and dad, and you are home, the child, I mean, a girl can maybe sometimes confide more in the dad than the mom, and vice versa. If, let's say, my daughter is not talking to me, I'll maybe get my husband, maybe can be closer to her, might be able to start something. What's really going on? What do you like? What's not happening? And we have to, every single day when child come from school or whatever they're doing, one-to-one time with them to find out how they're feeling on that day, what's the fault around the day, what went wrong, what went right, what, there's a lot of things that we really need to put into consideration. But I won't take too much of time, but just to say that I work in mental health. I'm open, and as Madam Invida knows me, I've opened a line of listening time and emotional support to anybody. And as I did mention about trust, we Black community don't trust our own people, regardless of the expertise we have. And that's where our problems start. We rather go to maybe India or whatever. It's not bad, it's still okay. But what we should know that we start with our own aims, as Sister Yetunde said, we have to start somewhere. So it's about preventing people to either have mental breakdown than waiting until it's too late. So I can put my number down. Every Saturday I offer support for anybody that wants to, that can call in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aretha. Thank you so much. And thank you for also, being the part of the change where you are actually wanting to make a change in our community. I really appreciate it. And definitely, yes, I'll need your number, because I always say that I feel that, a lot of Black people, we have so many expertise. But I think one of the things that Thelma touched, that we don't like to use each other, like Aretha said, is because we don't want to wash our dirty linen in public, which is what Thelma said already. I don't want somebody else to know what I'm going through. So I'd rather go outside, whereas somebody who is, my color would understand the way that I feel so. Anyway, that's the way I feel, would understand me more in the things that I'm going through than somebody out there. And I really appreciate for every professional person that has been affiliated to Pass the Baton. I mean, a lot of people have been helped, and I want to say thank you. I'm going to ask Daniel Mensah to quickly unmute himself. We have a few, and so we can go on. Thank you.
Yeah, I thank you, Bumi, and the rest of the participants. I'm sure I'm the only man on this platform at the moment. I've been listening to your program, and Thelma and Vida. Thelma is my daughter, and I've been listening to this for a very long time. My point is that normally we don't have time for our kids. That's the problem. We have to start having time with our kids right from the beginning. We have to build that relationship with them. Every week, how often do we talk to our children weekly or fortnightly or monthly to discuss their problem at school, at home, among their siblings and those things? Maybe some of them are doing, but what are the men on the program?
It's a woman's program, sir. Just to add to that.
It's a woman's program. Then yes. I'm on the wrong platform.
No, you're not. Yes, go on, please. Okay.
I'll just summarize it here. Yeah. So I would say thank you. I'll just end it here, because once the woman program, then I have to leave it here.
And just to brave you up, I think someone said you are not the only man. We've got another man. It's just typed in. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, I can see. Okay, thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dad.
Okay, now I'm going to ask Sister Onos. Yes, please go on, sis.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you everyone for your contribution. Just to buttress the point, which I just ran up the stairs. I just want to catch my breath. 1 second. Of it, yeah. So just to buttress on the point that as maybe from the African community, how we sometimes it seems, or it appears that we put pressure on our children in terms of what course they should study in school or what they should become, in terms of suggesting things like, what you think their best, what they can study in school or become. What I want to say is that, children go through this identity crisis and role confusion, model confusion, where, one day they want to be a doctor, tomorrow a lawyer, next tomorrow dancer, just because maybe their friends are choosing some of these courses. And I just want to say that as parents, we should be able to identify the strengths and weaknesses in our children, so that rather than, it's not like it's not directly putting them under pressure in terms of, oh, I think you'll be a good doctor, a good surgeon, and things like that. But you'll be wondering, because I've heard stories where children with such aspiration and such, dream and motivation to grow up to be a doctor or a surgeon, and, just doing something for themselves, because of peer pressure and your friends coming and saying, oh, I want to be a dancer, I want to be this. And somewhere down the line, they change their mind and they come back home and say, Mom, I don't want to be a surgeon anymore. You're like, oh, you've got the grades, and I can see that that's your passion. That's what you got passion in, what you want to do. So I would advise that you continue. And they're like, oh, no, Mom, I want to be a dancer. I want to be. And many years down the line, they're like, oh, Mom, if I had known, So I think that as parents, rather than, just to, I don't know if I'm making sense, but just to kind of like also add that you can suggest, because of you are, the parent, you're the caregiver, you can observe the strengths and weaknesses in your children. You can guide them, especially in this time where there's so much peer pressure out there, and children want to be identified as someone they see as their role model. But you're like, what, this is conflicts in personalities, because what strength you have in yourself is different from the strength this person you're trying to portray is. So I would suggest that you do this course. So I just want to say that it's not that it's wrong to suggest to your children what you think they can become. You can do that, but to the extent of their strength, and as you perceive, as you pray for them, and God begins to lay on your heart, impress on your heart what his plans are for the children, you can guide them and say, you know what, I know that you'll be better, or you'll be this, because you're trying to help them in that area. So that's just my little contribution. Thank you.
And I definitely agree with that, because I feel that is strong parenting, actually, and that comes from when you've spent quality time with them. And that's what we're all saying, that the strengths, because you've seen them so much. I mean, my first, what he wanted to study, that's as a result of his strengths. And as soon as he said it, I knew it. I said, oh yeah, that's your strength. That's who you are. And we were able to say, okay, these are the things that you're good at. And that's what we're talking about, bringing all their skills and talents into one bucket and helping them to find stability. And that's the role of, a good parent anyway.
And I just want to quickly jump in and add that I think that parents offering advice based on their children's strength of what they want to do is actually very important, because my mum, before I chose my A-level subjects, I was actually very bent on doing the sciences. And my mum in a notebook wrote down 3 subjects: economics, psychology, and English literature, because she felt in her heart that I'd really enjoy those subjects, and she never told me. And then when it came around to actually picking those choices, I picked those exact subjects. And my mum later came to me with the notebook and said, I wrote down ages ago that you would do these subjects because I know your strengths and your interests. So I think that parental input is very important, because you see your child from the moment that they're born, and you observe certain things, and offering that advice, especially when your kids are still in that making these very big decisions in life that they need advice and help with, is really important.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read this, then I'm going to call on Sister BC. And just to add to that, I think what Thelma is saying, even for adults, if you don't know who you are, or you're not sure of what, sometimes some adults will be looking at purpose in the new year, but sometimes you don't even know who you are. It's a good way to start, to write down your strengths, your skills. What are you good at? Write it down. What do you do effortlessly, even if they don't pay you to do it? What are those things that if I do this all the time, I would not even feel like that is your strength. That is to start. That's a good way to start it. So that's a tip, for any adult who is not even sure of where they need to be. Staying at home with the child is not enough if you do not check how you spend the time with your child. So that's about quality. Think about what you do when we are with them. What do you do? We need to reflect on this. Ask them what happened in their day. Listen to them. Watch your body language. when we speak to our children, check the tone of your voice to minimize the anxiety. If the children feel you will shout or you'll be angry, they will not be encouraged to come to you. Take time to rest. Spend time doing activities that are relaxing to help increase your emotional availability. If you're too tired, you cannot be calm. Be prayerful to help you feel led and capable of being the best you can be. And I'm just going to call on Sister BC or Sister Grace. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I guess many of the speakers have said many things I really also would like to say, but I'll just quickly do a recap. As Bumi knows, I have 3 teenage children. And in this country, you know, parents need wisdom to raise their children, because no matter how much we try, because parents, particularly African and Asian parents, they try to, I mean, we usually automatically try to raise our children the way we have been raised. And in my own house, I get a lot of, oh, mom, no, that I don't see it that way. And at times I'm taken aback when my children argue back, but we have to really accept the fact that, you know, most of our children were born here. They actually don't think the way we think. So we should be quite tolerant, understanding, try to see things from their point. A lot of African parents like to just impose their will, their wishes on the children. These children, they teach them from school to have their own minds. So we have to, you know, we have to recognize that. And I think charity begins from home, really. We should be good role models to our children. They should see in us. I mean, at times you don't need to talk. Your actions say a lot of things. You know, when parents lie in front of their children, don't be surprised when your children start lying. The kind of lifestyle parents live, you know, the way parents spend, you will be surprised. I mean, I know a family where they only like to buy designer labels, and now the children, you give them anything less than that, they don't want it. It's the upbringing they've had. And prayers, nothing can take the place of prayers. You know, we have to parent in godly ways, because we can't really do everything. It's left for God to guide our children, particularly when they leave home, and spending quality time with them. The man that spoke earlier, you cannot reiterate it enough. Quality, quality, quality. When you spend time with them, even when you're tired, you know, make that time. You'll be amazed. They come back from school, they open up to you, they talk. And that is key. We don't want to push them away from us. Let's listen to them. Their views are also very important. And when it comes to choosing subjects, many parents like to, all these things, doctors, lawyers, gone are those days. If they want to go into art, let them do so. They're footballers. You know, there are many things children can, so long as God is involved. You know, we should do away with the old way of thinking that unless your child is an engineer or lawyer. No, let's encourage our children, whatever. One of my children's best friends, she wants to be a chef. She's very good academically, but all she wants to do is cook. She's only 18 and she's already making thousands of pounds. She set up an Instagram page 2 years ago. She featured on BBC Young Bake Off program or something. I don't know what it's called. So let's support them in whatever they want to do. If they make mistakes, they will learn from their mistakes. And also parents, particularly African parents, we should learn to apologize to our children too when we're wrong. We're not always right. Many times they're trying to get our attention, but because we're just focused on I'm your parent, don't talk back, don't do this. You know, they're sensitive. Nowadays, this mental health thing is becoming a big problem in amongst our children. We have to listen to them and accommodate whatever they say. And I think lastly, it takes a village to raise a child. They say, I'm always open to maybe my friends pointing things out or my siblings correcting my children. That's how it should be, and I let them know it's not only your parents that will correct you, other people can correct you. I encourage my children's teachers to correct them, not just do the Oyibo thing. So, and may God help us in all that we do. So that's the little contribution I have. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Nika.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sister Bumi. Good evening. I'm glad I'm here this night. And my little contribution is, it happens in my house. We, like Thelma said, we expect too much of our children. We want them to have like the highest. And it happens because at times my husband will tell my daughter, maybe the score is 100% and she gets 97. She comes home, she's happy, she passed, she did very well. And then my husband would like ask her that, where is the remaining three?
Yeah.
And the girl would be like, but I tried, I passed, at least I got 97 or I got 96. Then behind, I have to go to her and I'm like, don't worry, you did extremely well. There's nothing you could have done better. You did well. So, at times with that pushing, it pushes most children to like these exam malpractices and, cheating in class and everything. So my own contribution is, let's try and like encourage our children, whatever they get, as long as they are passing, they are above average, please let us encourage them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sis, for sharing. And I'll call on PT. I've asked you to unmute, sis.
Hello, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thelma. Thank you so much. Well done. I just have a little contribution. I want to try and encourage parents to please, let's discuss our failures, the things that we failed in when we're like at their age. Let's not pretend like everything was good for us when we were like them. Let's try and talk about what we did, the mistakes that we made when we're like them, when we're teenagers, when we're young adults, how we also failed. You understand? If they're not doing well. Because when we don't talk about how the mistakes that we've made or our failures, or when we're not vulnerable with them, it's kind of like prevent them from telling us what they're going through. And they see us as saints. So they can't open up to us like they should open up to us. So let's try and work on that as parents. God bless us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that angle. And I remember a teenager actually asking her mom, like, you're talking like you've never failed before, And I actually remember, I'll say this because when my son clocked 13, I got pregnant before getting married. So I remember my son came home one day, I think he was 13. And normally we have sex talks. I talked to them about sex. Then I think he must have just dawned on. He was like, Mom, hold on. So hold on, you're 13 years of marriage and I'm 13. So how does that even add up? And I told him the truth. I said, no, I've never told you. I got pregnant before getting married. And he was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. I said, oh, of course I did. And I said, oh, but the consequence is this. And then we started to talk about it. So I think it's very important also that, we don't appear as saints, and our children also can identify that we are human beings. First, that we're human beings, and then they can confide in us as well. So thank you so much, PT, for sharing that. Sister Shade, I'm not sure which of the Sister Shades, but yes, I've asked you to unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Right, well done, everybody. Oh, honestly, this night, I honestly don't want to say anything, but my goodness. I would just first of all say well done, Thelma, for that research. You've done very well. And I would say well done to all the mothers here. I would say something. Coming to the UK, nobody ever prepared us for what as parents, nobody prepared us for what we're going through. I think we need to a great extent, say well done to ourselves. We need a pat on the back, because we are not in a society where, when you're back home, you understand the norm. You know what is expected of you. So you just you just plod along. But when you come to the UK, you are yourself, then you are a parent, then the society's expectations, then the people back home, and then so it's a lot to take on board. Again, I would say in our society, we are used to this, like some of the speakers have earlier said, we can't be vulnerable. It's just something that we as human beings growing up is not something. You're a woman, you have to, black woman, you have to be, you have to be tough. So when we come here, we don't understand between being tough and the discipline and when to go soft. I would just quickly add this. One of the things I found out have helped me bridge that gap between my children is having the talk time per meeting period. I let them talk. And if there's anything I'll say, what do you think I should change? What do you think your dad should change? What do you think I'm doing that you don't like? That moment, they have the power. So it's unfiltered. I don't crucify them for anything, but I say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So don't come on me, like yadi, 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 just so they say their mind. And I reflect on it. Like the sister who spoke, I apologize to things that I probably wasn't paying attention to because of the stress. So we parents, we should try, and if not at all, spend that time where we just talk about things that the children want to change. It could even be like my daughter said, I don't let her spend much time with her friends outside of school. You see, things like that. That's what she's been nodding since she's been chatting with me. She's on this program. And she's saying, Mommy, you see, it's not just coming from me. But again, you would have to strike that balance. As a parent, you have to strike that balance. Well, please, I just want to say this tonight. Please, all the women, can we unmute? If permits me, let's give ourselves a round of applause, please. We need it. We need it. Honestly, let's unmute and give ourselves a round of applause. Because
use your reaction buttons, please.
Yes, please.
Give yourself a heart.
Give us a like or something. We need it. You're doing well. And if you think you're lacking behind somewhere, speak to people who have children that are older than you. Speak to people who you relate with as role model. It's nothing to do with age. Thelma is a young lady, but I can tell you from our research, she's gathered some understanding, knowledge that some adults might have not, based on our research. So please reach out. I have people here who I talk to about my children, and I know it took me a while to be able to get to that place. So if you are here today and you think they are going to judge you, let them judge you, but at least you've spoken. So you've spoken and you're free now. There's nothing. I used to say to someone, I spoke to a couple who just arrived, and I could see that vibe of Nigeria in them, and I can see I said, calm down. You see, there's nothing like nothing. Calm down. You see, you're just running for the money. You have children. Think about the schools you're going to go into. Think about, you just want to make money. No, give yourself 5 years. Give yourself. You see, that plan, we don't have it. We just want to get. So well done, everybody. I'll just leave it there. Thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Stephanie as well for joining. Thank you. Okay, Steph Laura.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about in terms of directing and guiding our children in their purpose. I think, the foundation of that needs to be prayer. And I think that prayer should be done as early as possible. So the Lord is already showing you, He's created those children. So the Lord will show you and say, this is the direction I want this child to go to. So when they start exhibiting those strengths or things like that, then you're not surprised. And then you're asking God, guide me and help me to direct them in that path you have ordained for them. Yes, we're talking about writing their strengths and that, but I think you should already know even before they know, because you've been praying about it so that you can guide them. For example, with my first son, before the age of 10, the Lord had already told me what direction He wanted him to go. So when he was choosing, his A levels or GCSEs, and he came to me, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. He probably thought I was going to say, what are you talking about? But when he said that, I was like, fine, I already kind of know that's where you're supposed to be going anyway. So that's not an issue. The issue would have been if he was choosing something completely different. I'm like, this is not what God said. Or how far? What's going on here? So I think the prayer should be the foundation. They're never too old. We always continue with the prayer, but ask God. He created them. Which direction? How far? And then by the time they're exhibiting the strength, you're like, yes, I already know. Okay, God has already told me, okay, we'll take you to this activity. We'll try and put this in place. We'll try and do this and do that. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. So there is a blueprint for every child. There is a blueprint, just like Samson, there are requirements for each child. Ono said we need to be careful as parents to guide our children based on the opportunities and resources available within our environment and culture and society. In developing countries where these supports are not available, we as parents can help our children choose and guide them on courses to study that will benefit them within the country they live in. Okay, within the country they live in, what about the future? I would still go back to that, it's about what God has placed inside of them. That would be my own, I don't know about others, but that would be my own choice. But obviously we're all different. There are talents and there are skills that everyone has, and you do it effortlessly. And it goes back to what Sister Farah just said. There's a blueprint, and those talents are given by God. And, it's there for us to enable. But the thing about talent is if we're not using them, the more you use them, the better you become. The more you use them, you just get so much good, and you find so much grace in it. And that is your strength. And when people see you, they say, oh, you're exceptionally good at this. No, it's not because you're exceptionally good. It's because God has embedded those talents inside of you, and you have noticed it. And what you have done is that you have channeled it. And that is the purpose that a lot of people are still looking for purpose. But we can help our children identify their purpose as they are growing, because we are with them, we see the gifts, that God has embedded inside of them. And it all goes back to the quality that we spend with our children. The quality. I've got an 8-year-old. The things that she wants to do, there are 10 things she actually writes those things down all the time. I have engraved them, I have written them, and to be honest, she is already almost 6 of those things. She's already doing them. I can see it in her. So my job as a mother is just to help her, to train her into that area that God has developed her into. Because we're all different. We are all here to solve a particular problem, and our problems that we're solving differs. And the problem that somebody else is solving might look small to me, but guess what? There are lots of things that are big now that back then people thought, there's no way that these things would have. This one will not make money. But now, talk about influencers. Who thought influencers could do anything? They're earning so much. Some earn, we're talking about them earlier, some earn billions a day. And it's not just the money, but obviously, as Christians, you use the money to finance the kingdom. But if we find people who are kingdom principled people, we can have our own things. We can have Christian banks. There's a lot of things that we can do. We are limited because we depend on the government. We are limited because we are depending on the social system. We are limited as Christians. And that is why whatever law that they give to us, we have to just take it, because we don't have the resources, to finance ourselves. And until we do, the world just has to ride us, and we keep going. So the prayer is that, God raises up this generation of children who are really eager to take the kingdom of God, but not just to take it, to actually finance it, because we have a lot of people who are missionaries. They are there. We have people who are doing charity. They are there. What we need is the resources, and may the Lord help us. So I'll go to Titi. Then I'll go back to Thelma.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to add to what I think it was Sister BC and then Sister Flora as well. They spoke about our children, knowing what they really want to do. I remember just yesterday, in fact, just looking back at whatever everybody has said today. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with my son, and I actually have some of the notes I wrote down. And then we're just talking about, general stuff. We're talking about school and everything. And then he was saying to me that, because throughout his primary school, they actually were trying to diagnose him of different things. Of course, I cooperated because I wanted the best for my child. I'm not that kind of parent that would just say, oh, God will do everything. These people are there for them to solve a problem. And then I was open to so many things they were bringing to the table, but they couldn't find anything. But of course, his social skills were one of those things. So they actually referred him for EHCP, that's the Educational Healthcare Plan, to help him with his social skills and every other thing. And then he was just saying to me that, Mommy, I feel like I have social anxiety. I have this, and I feel like, when I focus in class, I actually get these things. And then I was saying to him some of the things I noticed. I said, you know what? I know that you can do these things, and I know that you have the ability to. And that was one of the reasons why I said, TED Talk. I actually then clicked on TED Talk things. And then, the girl was speaking about her life, was speaking about faith in Christ. And, she was just talking about never giving up is the key to succeeding. And then I then said, you know what, Aaron, do you want to work with me? Do you believe that you can be the best at whatever you're doing? You are not limited. And I give him examples of celebrities that have different things.
you know, that, but then even though they have these things, they were still able to come out victorious. Then I said, okay, do you want us to do? Then we actually created a timetable that yesterday night. I said, okay, let's do it this way. You know, when you do it this way, when you're consistent, you have a set time. I know you can't follow it all the time, but your plan, then it goes with your future as well. You know, you start planning yourself now. Then when you get to your workplace, you're not late for work because you have a time, you know, by this time, everything has to be done. And that really worked well. And then we spoke about his own work. We spoke about social skills. We spoke about him being consistent. We wrote about Jeremiah 29:11. And then I said to him, you know what? Look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, I can do this thing. I will do this thing. I am stronger than what everybody thinks I am. I said, you know what? You have to prove them wrong. They think you have this, but you have to say, you know what? This is not what God is saying about me. So I just wanted to put that in, that, you know what, as a parent, we have we have everything God has given to us, and also that not to compare ourselves with other people. You know where the shoe hurts. You don't have to look at your neighbor. You might think people are making it out there, but you know, God has given us these children as their custodian, and we need to do well by them, because I believe that when the time comes, we're going to give an account of how we've trained them. And I pray that will not be failures in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Thelma.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for your amazing responses. I think it's so encouraging to me as a young person to see that parents are making such amazing decisions and movements in terms of really taking those steps to be intentional about their relationships with their children, and take it and being willing to listen, be open to bridging the gap between generations. I'm so grateful for everyone on this platform, and I really hope that I can continue with this work alongside my mum, working on having more discussions like this and opening up. It shouldn't just be within this Zoom meeting, but it should be in other places in public, and this message that we want to spread should be spreading into our communities as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mommy, as well, for being there for her, for supporting her through. We appreciate you. And the last thing that Thelma mentioned, I know that it's 9:12, that I really would want us to close on this. And I would mention also that Pastor Yetunde did mention one thing, that obviously as parenting, all these things that we've spoken about does not make us, it doesn't make anybody a perfect parent. There are no perfection. There's no perfection anyway. The fact that we are talking about this does not mean that my children are perfect, far from it. But I feel that what we are here tonight to do is to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn. And as long as we keep doing those things, there are sometimes some things will work in my home, they might not work in Vida's home. You know, throw that dish it away if it doesn't work in your home. Anything we've mentioned today, if you try it, it doesn't work for you. Yes, please, let's throw it away. You know, embrace something that works in your own home, because every child is unique. Every home is unique. Every home has its own values, and everyone is just different. And the way God has made us, we're just all different people. I'm going to ask for questions, but before I do that, if you have a question, please put your hands up. The thing that she spoke about is shame. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think it's so important, you know, that we talk about that. You know, don't be afraid to ask for help. Get to somebody, you have someone to talk to. There's always someone. Don't be in silence. It's so important. You know, the Black community, we don't have it all. No one is perfect. What we see is just our faces. If you need help, ask for help, especially for people who have gone ahead of you. I do it. There are people who have gone ahead of me. Why do I need to reinvent the wheel? I just go to them and I ask for help. And whatever they say, it doesn't mean that I use everything. You sieve. Whatever wants to work for you, you use it. You know, but don't be in silence. If you need help, please do shout out for help. Any question, please just raise your hand. Well, she did say it as well. Be kind to yourself. There are no perfect parents. Yeah, it's actually in our slide as well. There are no perfect. We've all done very, very well. Mothers, fathers, anyone that is here, I just want to encourage you. You're doing a fantastic job. We don't know it all, but I feel that the love that we have inside of us is big enough for a change in whatever that we need to do. There are some good things. It's not everything that is from our generation that is bad. Trust me, we did have some good things, and we can take that across, you know. And any question? And if we have the teen and the twin with you, please, can we just quickly see their faces? If you have a teen or a twin, quickly, just remove the video quickly. Let's just see their faces and say shout out to them. If you've got a teen or twin, just trying to see them. Oh, I see you, girl Oyin. Well done. Where's Fola? I see Fola. And I see Fola's grandma is here as well. And Auntie Moji, Staflora's mom, 3rd generation. Thank you, ma. Hey, I see Anita. Is that Anita? Or Abigail? Sister Arnold. Yeah, I think I see Anita. I think it's Anita. I'm not sure. I see Aurelia. I see Aaron. Thank you so much, girls. Thank you, Steph. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you all. God bless you. And tonight we're just going to close. If there are no questions, I'm not sure. I think I can't see anybody with questions. Any question? Please make sure that we share. I think that a lot of people benefit from this. And Thelma, we appreciate. Oh, Lois is here as well. Thank you, Lois. Thank you, girl. Thank you, Lois and Phoebe. Thank you. And also, if you are new to pass the baton. Oh, Princess is here. Hello, Princess. Good girl. And Ruthie. Good girls. Well done. Thank you for coming. If you're new to Pass the Baton, we do this every last Friday of the month. So the next month actually will be very interesting. I can tell you that, because it would be a compilation of everything we've done from January till today. We're bringing everything. We're going to do reflection on the things that we have learned. And then December will just be our time to party with your own food in your own house. So I just want to say thank you. Every last Friday we are here. Princess, hello. We are here every last Friday of the month. We talk about a lot of things. And then also next week, after reflection, we'll be bringing the topics for the new year. So all the topics, we would bring all that. So whatever topic, I don't choose the topics. It is what the people want. So whatever topic that you feel that we should discuss in the new year, please bring them all together in the month of November. Let's have it. There would always be somebody to talk about it. God would always send someone. I really, really appreciate it. Wisdom, I see you as well. I think I did see Folake Wisdom. I saw you open your video. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I see you again. High five. Thank you. Thank you for joining. God bless you. And we've got the form. If you want to be kept updated, there is a form. It will be there now. Please do fill it in. We would use it to update you about our future events. That's the only reason we use it. Whatever email you put in, it would be there. And yeah, I think that's about it. Before we go, I just want someone to pray for us. I'm looking at names quickly. Okay, I'm not sure. It's not our first time, but hopefully I'm going to ask her to unmute herself. I feel that she's there. Mrs. Odonwa, it's my actual first time of seeing you here. I know you always say you come, but I pray that you are able to lead us in prayer tonight. Are you able to? Thank you.
Well, yes, Bumi, good evening. I can say a quick prayer. I'm not I'm not that kind of prayer warrior, but I'll try because I've enjoyed the session. So dear God and Father, thank you for sending these wonderful ladies to, to inspire us and to help us even as we journey as parents. God, I know we have formed a lot of we've formed our mindsets, but God, with your support and your help, we are able to learn again and unlearn the things that are negative for our development and for the development of our children. So God, we just ask you to open our eyes, open our brains, and give us wisdom. You have said in your word that if anyone lacks wisdom, then let them pray to God, who will so graciously fill them with wisdom. So God, please, let your wisdom, be impacted in our lives so that we can do good and great things and positive things for our children's development. Thank you for everyone that has contributed, and thank you for Bumi for opening up this forum for us to to share our minds and share our experiences. And God, please, we pray that you strengthen us and strengthen our children and our spouses, our communities, so that we, even the African community, can start, to, act more, do better things, and have like one mind and one voice, so that we too can be, a great community and a rich community, not a community that is shunned or thrown to the sideway, but a community that others want to learn from and, learn from, and that sort of thing. So God, please let us open our eyes to all the opportunities around us and grow as one. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank you, Father. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.